with talk with some WeakAuras. So let me set this call up real quick. I guess like what do we want to know as add-on consumers? It's like a couple of main questions. What will still be possible? What won't under current things? If so, if way too much is being taken away, what are some things they can do to actually loosen those restrictions and still accomplish what they want to accomplish? And then some general things, like maybe what we could start with is, they said in interviews we're going to remove this stuff but not the other stuff. How close to the truth is that? And like, how blindsided have you guys been over the past couple days versus what they said they were going to do versus what they did? Yeah, I think we'll start with that. All right, slamming it. Yo, hello. I need to pop this out, and then once I do that, I'll let me have you guys introduce yourselves though, so I can make sure I have like a pinned message of like who's talking. So starting with Dratnos, who will be here with me. Not both Dratnos and I. You guys know who I am. Dratnos and I are here. We're not smart WeakAuras people, just to move the conversation along and kind of act like the add-on consumer. The rest of the people in here are people who work in depth or are knowledgeable about the space and have some takes on this stuff. But we are purely from like the, I don't understand even some of the words you will be saying, but this is like what maybe we would want to know as consumers is like what is even possible to still be made and stuff like that going forward. Not what is currently made and what would have to be remade to make it work, but like what is possible basically. I was gonna have Dratnos. You guys know who Dratnos is too. I'm just wasting everyone's time. Starting with Relo.
Making and so easy, and then over the time, like more assignment stuff and more complicated stuff happened, and then eventually you got into making some add-ons as well, and also raiding around like World 20.
Yeah, if anybody's used like Northern Sky raid tools, right? That's you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also formerly made WeakAuras for us as well.
True, obviously. Yep.
And Nagi.
Yep. Hey, I'm Nogi. I'm a developer of MDT, Mythic Dungeon Tools, as you know. I've in the past also been making WeakAuras a lot, also for raiding. Started out in MOP with it, and actually through custom WeakAuras came into making add-ons and making stuff like MDT. And yeah, nowadays I'm maintaining MDT, making stuff for Method, and working on Vago.
And Stan.
Hey, I'm Stan. I've been working on WeakAuras since 15 years now, I think. Yeah. I'm not sure what else to say.
Yeah, you're the.
This is my baby. Basically.
Yeah, you're the WeakAuras guy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who work on WeakAuras, I'm sure, but you are the WeakAuras man.
And we have another one here, so. Yeah.
Great. And the other WeakAuras man. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Rivers. I started getting into add-ons in general sometime in Warlords Returner, I believe, and I got into WeakAuras specifically starting in like the Legion Alpha and that sort of thing, and worked my way up into eventually just being one of the main maintainers of it for about 10 years now. That's me.
All right, great. I don't know, Dranos, if you have any.
The team is 4 people, by the way. Just wanted to mention it. It's just us two. We are 4 people.
Yeah, there's 4 people in total who are like core maintainers of the add-on.
All right, great. I'm just adjusting a few of your all's volumes. I think I pretty much have it good to go. Dranos, I don't know. We have a few places I definitely want to get to, but one I kind of want to start with. So, at least from what I could tell, there was like some word on the street stuff before any of the alpha stuff was known that like they were actually going to be restricting add-ons a lot earlier than they had previously, like, maybe not said, but kind of implied. Like, at least when we heard me and Dranos literally interviewed him about this, it seemed like it was going to take a lot longer for them to really restrict stuff. But it was kind of known within the last couple weeks to months before these major announcements, where it was like, we kind of heard, this might be happening, a lot earlier than we thought. Alpha might have a ton of restrictions. How much, like, I guess, surprise has there been from you guys in the last few days in terms of this is what they said they would do, and this is what has actually been done, and then like trying to, maneuver around how you would actually deal with that? Like, have they basically taken away more? This is what it seems like. Have they taken away more than what they said? And it was like a huge surprise to you guys, or is this like kind of what you were expecting if they were ever going to do something like this?
It's 100% different from what they've said they're going to do and what we expected them to do. Like, if you've watched Ian's interviews, and even in your interview with him, he said completely different things, right? It's very, very different, and that's why we were pretty shocked when we saw it. we got some information before the alpha servers got released and our accounts got flagged. So we did know what is coming a little bit before, but yeah, it's totally unexpected. And that's actually my main problem with all of this, that they are doing very different things from what they've actually said they would do. Like their announcements were completely different.
What are some of those things? If you can kind of announce them in somewhat like easier to understand terms.
Yeah, I think the main thing is that it was previously said in interviews that this would be a slow process and they wouldn't kill off things immediately, that it would take a lot of time, and they were very careful and going to wait until their own stuff is up to snuff with custom UIs and then slowly start phasing out and disabling APIs and whatnot. And that's just exactly not what happened. They just got into the bulldozer, drove over the whole thing, and presented that as the final solution for now, I guess. I'm sure they're going to make concessions, and they already did a few, but we didn't expect this to happen right now. Like it was, for us, it was like maybe patch 13 or whatever, end of the last Titan, when we can completely expect all of those changes to roll out, but not right now.
Okay.
I think the biggest shock for me personally was like learning that like, oh, you won't be able to like add-ons won't be able to see like any of your cooldown abilities. Like that wasn't on my radar at all until maybe last Titan, if that early. And then like we just learned that, oh no, that's all now considered secrets and you can't see it. It's like, oh dear.
Do you think this is my like? Do you think it was something like they were going along the lines of like, okay, we want to do one step of this, and then they realized the amount of total things, the nuclear option, like this is how many things we would have to turn off to 100% make sure there is absolutely no possible way for anyone to get around this stuff if they were at least trying to get rid of us, because I think this is all coming from they want to get rid of assignment stuff like right away. And I know some of you guys were probably a part of this when they had first announced private auras. I'm sure you guys all met very quickly and decided how many different ways you could potentially get around what they're actually taking away from you versus what you can give WeakAuras that information to still solve it. And
funny thing is we told them that before they launched it, because we actually got to talk to the devs before, and when they introduced private hours to us before they launched it, and we told them that this is, if they still want to do it, it's okay, but it's not a good thing, it's not a valid workaround, it's just something that is annoying, and the top guilds can probably just ignore it. Like there will always be workarounds for that. And I'm pretty sure that's how they came up with the new secret system, and I also know that the secret system is their solution to block or get the features in line to what they want us to have access to. But I don't think it is necessary to do all the blocking right now. They can just enable this in pieces and not all at once, and it would probably be fine. But yeah.
Okay. How many things can be rolled? Because, like, okay, clearly we can get over the fact that they said, okay, this is going to roll over a long period of time. That's what we were all under the impression of. That's what I was under the impression of. But clearly now they're like, okay, we're going to nuke everything. And then it seems like, at least in a recent interview, they said they were willing to, like, roll back some restrictions. They're like, flipping their philosophy. It's not, let's do a little over time. It's, let's do everything, but then we will maybe give you some stuff back over time, at least in this alpha period, that we feel like makes sense. So I guess maybe what are some of those things? Like what are some things they could roll back right now that would not allow us to make shitty assignment auras and would still make major things functional? Or is it just that this secret black box thing existing in its entirety is going to, you know, make basically all of that not possible?
I think the way they engineered this is that this is all flags. They can just flag stuff as this uses the secret system and this doesn't, so they can experiment around with it. So it would be fairly easy for them to just turn it off for stuff that we request, and then it's just a decision on their part. And yeah, I think the cooldown stuff is probably the biggest. Like, you don't have access to your personal cooldown info anymore, and that's just, like, if you wanted to, you couldn't even replicate the Blizzard cooldown manager as an add-on. That's not possible. You couldn't replicate the Blizzard unit frames as an add-on.
So you don't even have the information to say, like, okay, my weapons of order is coming up in 30 seconds. There's no way for an add-on to know that.
Nope.
Right, like it can show you your weapons of order cooldown in a different way, but it can't do any logic off of the cooldown status. So it can't glow it when it's got 15 seconds left, or air horn you when it comes off cooldown. Although the default cooldown manager does have the functionality to actually do sound alerts, which is
it currently
funny. So
doesn't
you can get
work,
a lot of that
but
functionality,
and that's
but
good, by the
you have
way.
to use the cooldown manager.
Yeah, no one here is going to be like saying they shouldn't, like, having good versions of this in the game would be bad. Like, obviously that would all be good. It's just more, why isn't the option to also have that? So because of that information, you can't make basically any customizable UI add-on. Like, those are just not going to work.
So one big problem is, if it would work, is like we say, yeah, you could run logic on it. If an add-on would know the cooldown of a certain ability, you can do logic. Like, for example, one example was the barrage WeakAuras for arcane mages that tells you when to press barrage.
Yeah.
So if add-ons know these states, this is like a big thing that Blizzard I think do not want, then those WeakAuras are again possible. So the way I see it is, I think there is no way around that Blizzard just takes that away from us. What I can see though is that they might give us a system where, from like an add-on, let's say WeakAuras, whatever, we could ask Blizzard, okay, can we have the information for this specific spell, but then whatever our object is, or text or icon, that one cannot further do any logic. It cannot like do anything more. So maybe there's a way to do it that I can still track specific buffs that maybe Blizzard didn't think about in the Blood Decay UI, and yeah, that would be nice, but so far I don't see a way to do it other than that.
I feel like they've kind of backed themselves into a corner where anything that people wanted that they couldn't do with the default UI, if they let you do it with WeakAuras, then that kind of goes against their core philosophy of they don't want downloading a WeakAura to make you stronger anymore, right? Like, they don't want that to be a power level increase in Midnight. And so everything that where it's like, oh, it would be really nice if I could see this, you know, if I could have a WeakAura do this for me, they're basically looking at it and they're like, okay, we're either going to make the cooldown manager track that for you, or we're going to remove that interaction from the game, right? Like, we're gonna kill Roll the Bones having any of logic that you need to do with it, right? You just need to know whether 1 is bigger than 2 or not, right? And that's like all you need to know what Roll the Bones buffs are good. And then like Blood Talons, right? They're gonna take that out of the game, and there goes something that it would be useful to track, like which builders you've pressed in the last 4 seconds. They don't want to have some convoluted way to do that with cooldown manager. They don't want you to solve it with WeakAuras, so they're killing the talent instead. And I think that's what they're going to do kind of across the board. And I feel like a lot of the community does not, we kind of didn't comprehend that basically means like 95% of WeakAuras are no longer going to work, right? And then because of that, the WeakAuras add-on entirely is, you know, what's the point, right? Like all of
but that's
almost all of the stuff that we do with it doesn't work anymore.
Like, consumers, we don't know anything. Go ahead, Reload, talk.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, because you previously said, like, the philosophy, like, this all started from, like, the assignment hours, but I think it goes, like, way deeper, right? Like, they don't want you to do anything with, like, your rotation logic and...
Yeah, like, the way I imagine it is, like those auto solvers, like the cybernetic enhancements or whatever Blizzard wants to call them.
Insane
like,
thing to call that.
They're way on one end. What? Sorry, what?
It's just an insane thing to call that. Every time they say it gets me so good.
Yeah, but like, so like, the way I can imagine like their thinking is that, like, imagine you had like, do you know Clippy, like the little thing from Microsoft Word way back when?
Correct.
Like, imagine if you had that in WoW, but the only thing it could do was that, like, when you were low health in combat and you had a health stone, it would be like, hey, I noticed that you're at low health and you have a health stone. Why don't you use it? And like, I don't think anyone, including Blizzard, would think that that's like a bad thing. But then you can take that further and be like, hey, why don't you use your lay on hands on yourself? Or, hey, your fellow, like, one of your players in your party is low health. Why don't you use lay on hands with them? Or maybe, oh, you're in a Dawnbreaker 19 or whatever, and the Obsidian Beam's coming up, and one of your players has that big heal absorb on them, and the healer doesn't seem to be able to do it. So why don't you lay on hands that person? And it just keeps going up and up, and you can keep creeping up, and each time it's not that big of a change from previous, but like, eventually you're gonna get to like those auto solvers that like just tell you which lane to go in Maiden Virtue or Fractalus or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, it's a smooth scale, and like, where did they cut the line? And it seems like they just decided to cut it right at the beginning.
Yeah, I think for me the part that's most like objectionable is a lot of the other stuff that's dying along with this is like Plater is, you know, basically entirely getting neutered, right? And like, but the Blizzard nameplates it's not like we've had a patch to play with Blizzard nameplates and make them good, right? Like that's coming in at the same time.
Yeah,
damage meters. We don't even have damage meters on alpha yet, right? So like Details is going to be presumably entirely dead, and the Blizzard replacement, it feels like it would have been good to have a couple of patches where it's like, okay, we have both of these available. Like, tell us why you still are using Details over our default ones, and then we'll have all that functionality in the base UI one when we actually kill Details.
I mean,
and that's like, actually what they expected, right?
That that's basically what they said they were going to do.
They
said that.
Yeah. That's the issue, because right now not even the basics are supported, and that's why people are so mad as well, because they're basically taking away functionality without a replacement. If it was replaced by Blizzard UI stock options, then that would be fine, I guess. But there is no replacement. Like currently you can, like the current add-on solutions can do what Blizzard UI can do in the future. And that's like the really basic stuff, like showing cooldown timers on your action bar or whatever. You can't do that with an add-on anymore. And that just doesn't make any sense.
The damage meter in alpha, it doesn't even work yet. Like, they're not done.
Yeah, exactly. Also, like, just things like this, like, people have been tracking their bleeds forever on, like, you know, either their main, you know, maybe what you would call your cooldown manager bar, right? Like, over, after you press Garrote, it would maybe have a Garrote icon with your dot duration on your current target or something. And, like, now, because I was messing around with it the other day, the only way you can see that is on your Blizzard default target frame, which is, like, this little small debuff, which you, by the way, can't like prioritize or make bigger or whatever. It's like the only debuff you're looking at your target that matters, and it looks the same as the rest of them. I guess it's like slightly bigger. It's like any dot or poison or whatever. And then it's on your nameplate, and that's it. And that's like the only possible option, right? Like it's just not, it's not robust enough to support.
Now they said in the interview, with our cooldown manager currently, it doesn't support debuffs to like on target. But with Midnight, we're adding debuff states for your selected target. So you'll be able to visibly see and better understand how those debuffs are behaving on various targets. So like that's something they're planning to do, but it's not in yet, right? And it's just a question of like how many of these things that they want to work are going to be actually, you know, like, and it's not just like, does it technically work, but does it look good? You know, because the big strength of the WeakAuras is not just that you get all this functionality, it's that you get to have it look exactly how you want, right? And the Blizzard default UI, I think everybody would be okay with sacrificing a little bit of making it look exactly how you want if we get all the benefits of like all of the add-on cringe, you know, is gone of you know, having to set up 20 add-ons to play WoW or whatever. If we could get 98% of the functionality and 90% of the graphics customization, I think that'd be a worthy trade-off. I think most people are on board with that, but like it does not inspire a great deal of confidence to have this process start with them lying to us about it and then continue with like an alpha that just doesn't have all this stuff yet.
Exactly, which is also why... Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I was about to say, like, you can't even choose where you want each buff to be displayed, right? You have like this one bar, and it just all shows up there. You can't be like, hey, I want to show Bloodlust, right? Because that's something I want to track. And you just can't do that with the cooldown manager right now. Now, they're probably going to add that down the line, but I think there's so many little things that it's missing. I'm just not confident they will have it done in time.
It's just going to be a lot of growing pains at this rate if they don't actually like ease off on the restrictions.
Yeah, and
my current guess is that they just flipped one global switch and just wanted to test the waters and see what happens. And I'm pretty sure they have the ability to just fine-tune everything there. And I figured they just did the global thing to see what happens, and now they're going to go in.
Well, man, isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy how much of a self-own that would have been if they actually do what you're saying? Do you know how hard it would have went if they just did one blue post before the alpha came out or as the alpha came out and just said, hey, we're messing around with add-on restrictions. We're going to start with this being extremely restricted, and we're looking at feedback, and based on feedback, we have the ability to roll it back a decent amount. Maybe it paints them into a corner if you say you can do that, because then people are just like, it's like the pull the ripcord thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but like, I just feel like even just being open about it, you need to be, if you're going to do something so clearly against what you said was going to happen, I feel like an explanation would be great. And even in all these interviews, they never really like addressed the fact that they just totally flipped the script. Like, this would be going over, imagine this happens in next expansion. Last Titan, we've had some rolling restrictions kind of throughout the expansion, but they've had 2 years to build their UI while people had the option to play with what they want. And then when they actually do something like this, what they have available to us is just infinitely better, the reaction would be significantly less. Like add-ons in this game fucking own, but they can't realistically compete with an add-on that's, you guys have been making WeakAuras for 15 years. No one is going to be able to do that in 6 months. It's not possible, right?
Yeah, also like it's only a few people on their UI team, and there are hundreds of us add-on developers as well. So yeah, I totally agree with that. And my working theory is that either the tech team didn't correctly communicate to Ian what was going to release in midnight, or someone just flipped that global switch and they didn't know, or it was the classic Blizzard failed at communication. Because as you said, it would have been the easiest and the most obvious win if they just made that one blue post. It just had to be one line saying exactly what you said, that they are experimenting, and then nothing would have happened. They would have gotten the same feedback that this is blocking functionality X, Y, and Z, but nobody would have been mad because we knew it's just an experiment and they can turn things off and on again. So also we are talking to them pretty regularly as well, and they didn't mention this to us at any point. And that was the maddening and confusing part as well.
I think at the end of the day, it's the game director's responsibility to decide where the game is going. So
yeah,
I think if the tech team, I don't think they decide, okay, we're doing this big cut at the beginning of the expansion. So when the initial blog post or blue post came out, and I think I remember the statement even, it was said at the end of all of this, then we are taking down the add-ons.
Yeah.
And now it's literally the reverse. So back then I was thinking, okay, 12.0, they're bringing in new cooldown managers, new nameplates, everything new. Then we give them feedback, they make them better. Second patch comes, and then it's gone. That was my initial idea. Until obviously we got a bit of info, you know, and we heard, okay, 12.0 is actually, they want to do it there. And I was like, okay, I'm hyped. Where are the nameplates? Every second week, I'm like looking at Wowhead. Where's the preview for the new nameplates? And they're just massively behind on the stuff that is supposed to replace these big add-ons and big software projects, is what you have to call them, like WeakAuras and Plata. Those are like, and Bigwigs, etc. Those are big software projects. And like Stan said, they can't just do all of this in 6 months with a team like that, I think. And
yeah, I think they maybe could, right? But like now they have to, right? Like
yes, now they have.
They have to stick the landing on details replacement and Plata replacement and making the cooldown manager have like all the functionality that people want that it doesn't have yet, which they actually have most of that in now. So like, but that's really hard to do, and they didn't need to. That they've imposed a restriction on themselves that wasn't a necessary part of their overall goal, right? Of like they could have done it over a longer period of time and without that time crunch if they didn't, decide to go nuclear right now. But I feel like they're not going to roll it back. I think that they are. I think they're kind of locked into this now.
Yeah, I don't think they are. Like at best we might get a few crumbs, but like I don't think it's going to be enough for for WeakAuras for us to decide that it's worth doing anything.
Well, what are the crumbs? Well, what are like, do you guys know like what flags, I guess, could happen that could still definitely lock us out of the bullshit they don't want us to have, and because like we already talked earlier about they can't show you anything about how many cooldowns are remaining, because then basically that leads to you being able to create an Arcane Barrage WeakAura, right? Like that can't exist basically. But like Plater, or is that all fall under the same thing? Like you're saying like they could give us some crumbs, but like what are the crumbs? What could they possibly do?
I think they would have to make some new systems for add-ons, for example, to register. Oh yeah, I want to make a display for, I don't know, vampiric blood buff. But then it's mainly handled, it's very similar to the system we have right now, where we can register, I want to make a display for the private auras. Right? There's also a system in place where add-ons can register for that and also register custom sounds for those. So I think if they want to give us something like that, then they would need to make a completely new system that does something like that for like tracking our own spells, tracking our own buffs and debuffs. And those systems currently don't exist. And I think with the current APIs, because they're not changing actually the APIs, they're just making the APIs return like question mark values, let's say, if that makes sense to people. And yeah, I don't know, they would need to make some new systems and maybe have some feedback with the add-on developers. Okay, what kind of system would you like? And then design those systems and test them, etc. It's just a lot of time.
Is that something that can happen in 4 months?
I don't believe so.
Very unlikely.
That's the thing. They have like around 4 months, and I don't see that being
And the
enough
same
time
time
to
as
do anything.
and the same time as improving their own cooldown manager, finishing their details replacement, and like implementing all the all the bits and bobs for their plater stuff that people are that they haven't finished, I don't think is likely. I don't think they have the manpower for it.
Yeah, you mentioned the manpower. That's what I keep going back to. Did you say their UI team is like 3 or 4 people? Like the people that are creating all of these in-game add-ons? Do you have any idea how many people that is?
It's sub 10 from what I've heard.
Bro, those people must be the most stressed out people on the fucking planet right now. They're
Yeah, I don't
trying
envy them.
they are trying to create hundreds of people's work over add-ons that have gotten better over like 15, 20 years, and they're just like, do this in 6 months and just like lock them in a room and just tell them to figure it out. That's actually crazy.
I mean, I'm not one for conspiracy theories, but I'm kind of, this whole thing about console, and WoW being pushed that way, it kind of makes a bit more sense looking at it like this, but I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, wouldn't you still be able to have, first of all, you can have mods on console, and like you could still have mods on PC. Let's say you can't have mods on console. You could still build all this stuff to the best of your ability in game to have the game be on console, and you still wouldn't have to do something like this, right? I mean, my thing with console, why haven't they done it yet? Okay, they just got acquired by Microsoft. Like, do you know how many times they probably had meetings and offers to do something like this over the many years to get it on console because of how popular it was? Like, I feel like they would have, I don't know. Conspiracy sounds
But
right.
it is changed now. Though. There is some arguments for it and against, but yeah.
If you think about it, it does make sense, but I wouldn't buy into it, right? They are making the combat simpler, which means, okay, it's easier for console players. They're making UI simpler. They're making their own UI solutions for things. It would make sense, yeah. But I don't really buy into that yet. Also, mods on console are very hard. There's only like 1 or 2 games that successfully implemented that.
Oh, yeah, that makes
because
sense.
Then you really have to do the moderation part yourself and not rely on third party like CurseForge or whatever. Fuego and the others.
Or Vago, yeah. Stan, yeah. Also good.
I don't even really know if this is moving the conversation point, but this is the one thing that I actually came to my mind last night. I'm just thinking about what they really want to get rid of. I'm sure they want to get rid of like the Arcane Barrage thing, right? The WeakAura, the class UI package you have that actually makes it easier to understand when you should press abilities, roll the bones, that kind of stuff I all get. But I think really what has like pushed a large part of this is like WeakAura is figuring out boss mechanics for you and thinking, okay, Blizzard really wants to get rid of that. Like that's the main thing. Like we want to get rid of this because they're kind of solving.
If they had started with just that, it would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you could argue that they're fixing the Arcane Barrage thing with the class simplicity changes too. That's another part of this. But like the idea that we're losing, like what are you actually trying to remove? Okay, you're trying to remove the Brood Twister situation, the Fractalus situation. Do you know that they on average don't even make one of those bosses every raid? Like most bosses, even Dimensius, one of the hardest bosses ever, most of the hardest bosses ever have been made with, yes, do you see WeakAuras on player screen when they're killing them for World First? Yes. But like how many WeakAuras are like necessary or would have even massively changed the amount of time you spend on the boss is not a lot at all. Like new cooldown manager, you would have progressed the boss very similarly. And the thing I keep coming back to is if that's really what we wanted to get rid of, and this being the solution to that when they've actually made entire raids before without even a boss or a mechanic like that, it just seems like such an insane overreaction just looking at it from that lens. That's the thing I can't really move past, is it just seems like we did all of this. We fucking burned it all to the ground because of something that you don't even have to have if you make a boss without a mechanic like that.
Yeah, it makes me want to ask who finally got their way inside of Blizzard, right? Like, there's got to be someone who's like been harping on this for years and years.
I think it's pretty clear that like the boss stuff is not like, this is clearly a bigger endeavor than the boss stuff, right? Like,
yeah,
if they were just going after that, they would very quickly have backed off. Like a couple days ago, they would have been like, "Oh, we didn't mean to do all that." Like, I think their goal is they don't want people tuning into a WoW stream to see add-on stuff, right? They want it to basically be default UI. They don't want people getting into WoW to have one of the conversations they hear be like, okay, here's the add-ons you need, right? They want all of that to be done with the default UI, and so anything the default UI can't do, they don't want add-ons to be able to do because they don't want it to be a power level increase to use any add-ons, right?
That's completely fine, and also what I always said is fine for us. But the problem is that there is now a situation where the default UI can do more than any add-on.
Right.
And the add-on is broken. And also there are things like explain Fractalis. What happened there?
Yeah.
This was basically built to be solved by WeakAuras. I assume it was a mistake and they couldn't walk it back, that those auras leaked into the client or whatever, because it was very, very easy to solve that with an aura. And maybe it was like their goodbye present to us, I don't know, but something has changed internally there.
What final challenge for Relo? Holy moly.
Well, they said they said in an interview, they said that like we want a boss like Fractalis to exist, and you can just see the walls on your screen and know where you should go. And I tried to give them a lot of credit there in saying that's going to be a future Fractalis. Like if we were to make Fractalis again, we would have it be like this, because I'm like, if they're implying you could look at the walls on Fractalis and have any idea of where to go, like that's actually insane.
I don't know. But about the computational WeakAuras in Raid, I think it's definitely part of it. And what Ratno said is, I think, also part of it, the new player experience. I've heard this story so many times that a lot of new players, they just play Classic instead. Because they see like, oh yeah, what do I need to play? What do I need to do in Classic? Okay, I press a very simple rotation and Raid with my friends, okay. And in retail, it's like, you see like Gingy Stream, Airhorn Spam, Omni CD, 15 WeakAuras there, 6 consoles, everything. Like, it's just too much for the new player. So I think that is also something they want to look at. And the computational WeakAuras in Raid, and that there is not many bosses that kind of have WeakAuras like that. It could be also because the developers know, okay, I have this idea for this, listen here, and then someone's just going to say in the meeting, yeah, but the WeakAura people are just going to solve it, and then they come up with something else.
Yeah.
And I think this goes back very far. In first time I made a WeakAura like that was Queen of Ashara. There was this mechanic with the Queen's Decree.
Yeah, Decree.
Yeah.
And you had to do different stuff based on what kind of debuffs you got. And then I didn't really just make WeakAuras back then, so I was like, guys, I just need to bench here for 2 hours, make this WeakAura on 2 accounts, and I come back and we kill this boss. And I mean, that's what happened. And ever since then, there was always this like, okay, are they going to make a computated mechanic like this that we can solve or not? Sometimes they're really good. For example, Dimensios, the mythic mechanic, the gravities, that is just like, you have this pre-assigned. This is like a pre-solved WeakAura. It's like a very Final Fantasy-esque mechanic, I think. And I feel like that's still the kind of mechanics that we're going to be solving in the future. And I really like that mechanic myself.
Yeah, that's cool. The best way they could have done that without needing a WeakAura.
It's going to go in the direction of like Lost Ark and Final Fantasy encounters where you have to do a little dance and then everything is very obvious where you have to go. Like, Max, you did play Lost Ark as well, right? Did you do raids?
Yeah, I did the raids all the way through like the hardest version of I think his name was Varshan, and then I did the clown. I did like a sponsored stream of like one of the most recent raids too, and that was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I think for the hardest raids they're going to get inspired by those mechanics, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dimensius is a good example. Like it would just work, right? Dimensius.
Yeah, that's
maybe
just good.
The P1 would be a problem a little bit with the reverse gravity, but I kind of think that what happened for them is they sort of came at it and they were like, okay, we want to get rid of all the WeakAura, anything where you need a WeakAura. And then there's sort of this slippery slope, right? Where it's like, there's a lot of boss mechanics where you don't need a WeakAura, and some people do it without it, right? But like, the WeakAura still helps you.
It'll make you 5% more efficient.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You still get add-on gapped.
Do we want to only kill all the WeakAuras that make you 30% or more better, right? Even a rotational helper, right? Like, there's not everything is an Arcane Barrage WeakAura, but just having like a UI that shows you or calculates for you how many more whatever it is, kill commands you're going to get before you need to press your next barb shot, right? Like, those sorts of little trackers, they make you better. Do you need them? Maybe not. Do all of the best players of that spec in the world use them? Not all of them, but a lot of them do. But like, if you're trying to make it so people feel like they don't need WeakAuras, you kind of have to go after ones where you certainly don't technically need them, but they do make you even a little bit better, right?
I mean, these kind of WeakAuras
Sorry, go ahead.
These kind of WeakAuras is why I feel like it's impossible for them to walk back the add-ons cannot see your own spells and buffs stuff. Because like recently I made a WeakAura and this was the first time where I felt like, okay, I'm fucking cheating here. This is just
exactly.
cheating.
I mean, that's what we try and do, right? Like, we try and make WeakAuras. We have an idea like, oh, this can make me better, right? Like, oh, I can offload some of my brain power onto a WeakAura if I have it tell me X, Y, and Z, right? And their basic answer is like, we don't want you to do anything that resembles that anymore.
Like, I have a focus cast bar where I can see, first of all, a different color if my kick is ready or not. Then I see a certain icon if the cast is on a warrior and he has spell reflect up, so I don't kick. And on top of that, I can see if the warrior has a spell reflect ready through Omnicity. I just hook in there, and then like when I was done with this, I played with this is way too much. Like, I think also like the ceiling of like what you can do with computation and like coordinating mechanics, coordinating kicks and stuff, it has never been reached. Like, it has never, like in M+, you could do so much with it. And I think Blizzard is aware of this, that the people have not really fully pushed this envelope all the way. Because I think Eon once said when they removed the unit position API, where you could see other player on a radar, etc., he said, oh yeah, these guilds have done these radars for these mechanics, but in our eyes, they haven't even pushed it as far as they could. They could tell every player exactly throughout the whole fight where they're supposed to be. Like he said this once in an interview. So I think they're aware that it's just impossible for them to let Addons know stuff.
Yeah, like there hasn't been an Archimond or a Star Augur in a long time, but there could be.
Yeah.
What I wanted to touch on is accessibility, though, as well, and how that creates a huge gap, which is also what you just said, right? If someone has a very optimized UI, you're just going to be better at the game, because the information overload, like especially in Mythic Plus, there are too many casts, too many buffs, too many debuffs. So if you have the ability to filter all of that out, you are just going to be the better player, no matter what. Like, that's just a fact. But for the accessibility stuff, now that they are in this corner where they disabled everything and there is only the Blizzard UI, they'd have to take care about all the accessibility issues themselves as well. Like, there was a huge post on the WoW Reddit recently from the
leader of Undaunted, right?
Yeah, the leader of Undaunted, that's the Death Guild. And they have reached out to us before about WeakAuras features as well, and there are so many little things that people solve with add-ons in World of Warcraft that the Blizzard team did not consider or just never implemented themselves that are solved by add-ons. And that's just a huge deal breaker. And I've seen a lot of tweets or replies to my tweets where people were complaining about especially this, and I feel like they didn't consider that part. And now that they've disabled all add-ons, they have to solve that as well on top of everything else.
In 4 months.
In 4 months, exactly.
With less than 10 people.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, what are the solutions? I don't know. What could they do?
Well, there's multiple ways you can go about solutions, but I wonder if maybe an important thing would be some kind of like priority list on what does not exist in the UI right now that would have to make this as less painful as possible. And I think people have started kind of sending that stuff to them, but maybe even that would be something you guys would be interested in, just talking about stuff that the default UI does not have, that is like not, because you have to make some assumptions here too. You might start saying like, oh, the default UI should have this, and then you have to ask yourself the question of, does Blizzard actually want that in the game?
Right. Yeah, like some of it they want to take away entirely, right? Like interrupts, tracking your friends' interrupts in M+, right? Like how do they want us to interact with that in the future?
I think with the increase to spellcasting delays in PvE, and there was I don't know if you guys caught this, there was an interview with a leading counter designer, Dylan, who said that one thing they're doing is like every dungeon pack, there's going to be a lot less casts in every pack because they think some things don't need to be cast. Like if before they cast and at the end of the cast they put up a dispellable debuff, they're just going to not cast it and put a debuff that can be purged on the thing, right? There's going to be like less total things you actually need to be aware of in every pack, even more from what they already did in this expansion, and primarily because of like add-ons not showing you maybe someone else's stops or their kicks and stuff like that. So like I think that's something they're also trying to tackle in game at the exact same time.
Yeah, that's exactly
aren't you just gonna pull more packs?
Yeah,
like, if each pack does less, then you're just gonna pull.
Well, they might do more. It sounds like they're still going to be doing the things. They still have things you need to purge and deal with that you otherwise would have wanted to stop, but now they're just going to happen. So maybe you just can't pull enough things that have a purgeable debuff, or maybe like a shoot or a shadow bolt is something that isn't going to be a cast that you can stop. It's something that's actually just going to happen, right? And you have to deal with that. But you are right. If they reduce the complexity of pulls in an infinitely scaling Mythic Plus system in a high enough key, you're just, to be able to time it, you're going to have to pull 3 of those things and figure it out, right? And then you're going to run into the same issue.
But you also have to consider that's like the top 1% again, and they want to make the game easier for the majority of people, and they won't do that. They're just going to be happy that there's less stuff to track in a,
Correct.
I don't know, your weekly 7 or 10 or whatever. It also ties in with class design, right? You've seen most of the changes they did were to remove extra buffs or interactions that you would have to track to be effective at your class. And they rolled, I don't know, 3 buffs into 1 now, so there's only 1 buff that you have to track, but that's the same thing as the 3 buffs did before. And that's all just the combination of these changes that they are pushing right now. Like, if the interface is simpler, and then the classes have to be simpler as well.
There was something that I found really interesting looking at classes, and I don't know if this is true across the board, just the few that I've looked at, but it seems like they've taken a lot of like damage modifiers outside of cooldowns as well. Like the amount of, you know, damage windows and things that you'd stack up are seemingly reduced, and that's like a huge
because
difference.
That's something you have to track.
It's something you have to track, but it's also a huge difference between, like, really, when you're out playing another player, there are people that aren't very good and just like don't even press their GCDs every global. But for a lot of people, it's like how well you optimize your cooldown windows and like how that is really what separates players. And I think that is they're gonna reduce the delta between someone who doesn't understands that and someone who does. If they are actually taking away, like Windwalker for sure. Like Windwalker basically got Storm Earth and Fire removed, which was like a damage amp, and now it's just Weapons of Order, and it still gives you the effect of like the reducing of your chi and stuff like that, but like there's literally no damage amp applied to it at all. I wonder how many classes are like that, where there is, you know, your cooldowns are like significantly less powerful.
Yeah, I mean, player skill has been one of the biggest issues they've had for a while. That's the reason why we have 4 or 5 different dungeon difficulties, right? Because the player skill gap is so huge that you have to make a version for every target audience. And I think they would just want to flatten that curve a little bit with these changes as well.
Maybe what about maybe another big one is, okay, actually here's a question. What do you guys think for players is going to be the single biggest growing pain? The expansion comes out tomorrow in this scenario. People are logging on and playing the game. What is the thing that is missing from their UI that you would try to at least guess is not something Blizzard doesn't want you to have, but you're not going to have and it's going to affect you?
I think it depends on the role you're playing. If you're a healer, custom raid frames, I don't know. Yeah. I think every single
number
healer,
one.
If you're an imposter, the CC tracker, honestly, I think that's the biggest part.
But I don't think that's
not looking at it.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that's something that they definitely do not, like, they do not want you to do dungeons to feel like you need to know the CD tracking of your party members. Like, obviously at a high level, that will always make you better, but you have other ways to distinguish yourself as a high-end player, right? But I think that's something they don't want. I think healer raid frames are actually number one. I think people would really struggle with. I mean, there's people in top guilds who heal with very close to Blizzard default, but that's also assisted with WeakAuras that glow your raid frames when someone has a debuff or stuff like that that still works on Blizzard default. They like the little customization and the inability to like whitelist and blacklist certain debuffs and stuff is, I think, something that is probably should be top priority.
As much as the nameplates get like a whole Blizzard version of this, I think the raid frames, they also need like a whole overhaul before they're removing all of this stuff. For example, if I'm a DK in the raid and I'm pressing AMS, I cannot see that as a healer right now. If there's a DK that has an AMS up, I see maybe a little overshield for the absorb, but there is no icon indicating that that player currently has a personal up. That is just
that was one of the most useful WeakAuras, right? It's just like the one that puts everybody's defensives on their raid frames.
If you look at any raiding stream or POV from the last 10 years or something, like it's almost ubiquitous. Everybody has this. And another thing that's really like gonna hurt a lot of people, also a lot of M+ players, is just nameplate colors. Nameplate colors are everywhere. A lot of people use them. For me, it's like a very simple system. I have like one color for priority mobs, one color for casters. Like my casters are all yellow, for example. And that's just, as a tank, if you're learning new routes, it's just so good to be able to see, oh, this pack has like 6 casters. Let me not touch that one. And stuff like this. And I don't know. There's so many small things like this that I could just rant on and go on about and tell Blizzard you need to have this in your game before you remove it from us. Because a lot of people will quit, I think.
That's honestly still my biggest grief. Why don't you just communicate better? Why don't you just reach out to us? Why don't you just tell us what the plans are? Why do changes from interviews not get reflected in blue posts? Why do we ship things that we said we didn't ship? Like, all of that is just so confusing to me. I do understand Blizzard is a big company, right? But they can do so much better there.
I think we're less than like 2 days from a very detailed discussion on a blue post about this, I think, because the feedback has been pretty strong, right? And I think just simply the fact that this has just gone so differently than the last time they publicly talked about saying it would go, I feel like there just needs to be a decent amount more communication. So I assume probably get that. Well, I have a question. What are some things, and maybe the answer is nothing. Hopefully the answer is not nothing. What are some things that people use right now that will still work? That, like, you've been used to doing this, and this will still be in the expansion as of right now?
MDT.
Some Mythic Dungeon
yeah.
tools?
MDT, like bag add-ons should be fine.
Yeah.
Alt tracking stuff should be fine. Rarity, handy notes.
Collectors stuff.
Yeah.
Collector stuff.
Almost all of that should be fine.
What about...
With the latest change, rate notes, like MRT note, that is fine again.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think...
You can have and send the notes, you can't do anything with them anymore.
I believe
That's a...
reminders might
should
work.
Be fine.
Yeah, reminders will work. Which the stuff people have been doing for a while. So I think that...
I mean, that one's really hard to kill, right? Because like even if you kill the functionality of reminders, the unlisted YouTube video tech becomes like that Pandora's box has kind of already been opened now.
Or overlay and all of this stuff. Let's not even get into that. Oh my god.
Oh, I mean, we
should probably mention that they did roll back
we could, I
all
guess.
of the changes already.
Yeah.
Like, they did have a blue post, and they did announce that they were going to change something. They didn't do it yet, but they announced that they're going to revert some of the chat changes at least. That makes DKP add-ons and loot tracking possible
And the
again.
gambling add-ons.
And the gambling add-ons, of course, yeah.
I think that they should do like the functionality that was going to break. They should offer in game, like doing a break timer, for instance. I don't know if they want to make getting into WoW and raiding and stuff more accessible. You shouldn't need to download something for a break timer. I don't know. I feel like they should.
Do you remember how long it took
an add-on should
to add
also
the
be able to do that,
pull timer?
sure. But like, I don't know. I think they should have looked at that list of functionality that people are like, oh, we can't live without this, and put it in the game as well.
When was the official pull timer added? Was it
this
Legion?
last expansion, right?
The War Within.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
What?
Okay, yeah.
I thought it was earlier than that.
// countdown, right? Where it's like
Wasn't
Yeah.
the pre-patch of War
maybe
Within?
Dragonflight or something. Yeah.
I think it was...
Oh, no, Dragonflight. I think Dragonflight, sorry. Wow.
Yeah, Dragonflight probably. Yeah.
That's actually insane. I would have guessed it was actually in a lot longer than that.
I have a funny screenshot if you want to show it on screen, like of what is gone from my M+ UI while we're at it.
Yeah, sure. Send it in the chat.
Yeah, it's coming.
I think there is a. Let's see, what do we got here?
Oh,
this is your picture of everything on your current UI. What will not work in the expansion? Oh, and you're even using Blizzard default frames, right?
Yeah, I'm not a healer, so it's fine for me.
Yeah.
WeakAuras doing stuff though around it, like you can see a lot. I can see people's globals.
Yeah.
I won't be able to do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about it earlier about nameplate colors too. I wonder, like, if you were to ask a Blizzardman right now, like, how do you feel about nameplate colors? I think they would respond with, it should be obvious what you're pulling without the color of their nameplate changing, or something like that. Because they've mentioned that they want things to be more obvious what they do. And but I mean, obviously, it's really hard to do. You're gonna have a pug tank pull a pack that just has 4 humanoid looking things, and maybe 2 of them are casters and maybe they aren't. I don't know.
I think nameplate coloring and interrupt tracking fall into the category of like they want to kill the functionality and they want to make you not feel like you need the functionality. And I think there's a very good chance they're going to succeed at the former and not quite at the latter, at least not right away.
Yeah, because it will always be easier if the color of the caster in the group is different.
I mean,
right?
that'll always make it easier, right? But they don't want you to feel like, oh man, I can't. Like they want it to be obvious what the important casts are and all that stuff, and like what the important casters are. And that's hard to do. Nameplate coloring is a great way to just have the enfranchised players easily be able to do that for themselves. And different people have different opinions about which mobs they want to color differently. And if Blizzard kind of tries to take on all that, I think there's a good chance that it'll be a little bit worse or quite a bit worse for a while until they really get their get some practice on it.
I mean, I also think it could be in game, right? Like I feel like nameplate colors in game of just a simple thing of like, here's a caster nameplate color, here is a mini boss nameplate color and boss nameplate color, and then like just something that simple would also just do wonders. They'd have to categorize their own mobs, right?
Yeah, if they added some of the plater functionality of just like letting us, in fact, like nicknaming mobs as well. If there was a way in game to do that with nameplates, I would be so big, because like right now, one of the biggest problems when I went on alpha is like I'm just looking at these mobs and it's like it says Raiders training dummy instead of dummy, which it does for me on live because I have the last name thing, and man, that's gonna suck going away
Okay,
from that.
Hear me out. Is it so bad that add-ons can do that? Would it be that bad if someone had an add-on that just changes the name of a mob? Why do
Of
we
course
want
not.
to block that?
I don't
Yeah,
think
I
they
think that
want.
would
I
be
don't think they
nice.
want to block that. I think that is just a casualty of them wanting to definitely block other things, right?
Yeah.
I
And
think
that's my issue with that, because that's accessibility for me as well. Like,
Yeah.
it's unnecessary to block these kind of things. They might give you a slight advantage, but hey, if you are someone who easily forgets names or whatever, and you want to make the stuff that is important to you green, then by all means, just let me do that.
Or like, I mean, my eyes aren't very good, so I up the font size and all the nameplate fonts, and then so like half the name gets truncated, and so if they and then they have like 5 different kinds of mobs that all have like that all have the same first word for it, and it's like, hey, I can't tell the difference between these. So yeah, I mean, like let us shorten the names. Why not?
I think if they do something like that, they will be very selective about what they let us do. Maybe once again, system where we can register for a color change or whatever. Because I think dynamic color changes, like this is also something I've experimented with, that will not come back. It's
Yeah, the problem is like a lot of this stuff that in a world where they've killed a lot of the other functionality, we would use any functionality they gave us to do that old, right? Like we would have, oh, we can't have a kick tracker. Well, we'll make the nameplate go red when it's your turn to kick it, right? Like that. If they let us do that, we would do that. So they can't let us do that.
Did you guys have any other? Well, actually, there was one topic we kind of got into earlier. Someone said, I think it was Nagi said, that's not even getting into the topic of like overlays and stuff. Oh. So I don't think
going to happen, right?
I don't personally. Okay, so is someone gonna do it? Like, is some random person gonna do it? I don't know if it would be like something that happens at the top and then trickles down, because like the thing is I believe, as opposed, like, so just for some clarification, for people, Final Fantasy like doesn't allow. It's another game that has rating like this. It's a pretty good rating actually, but they don't allow add-ons in their game, so therefore they are not regulated in any way. And also the game's like super spaghetti code, so they actually cannot tell if you're using third-party tools unless you literally stream yourself do it. So they what they are capable of doing with, in quotes, add-ons in that game, which are like third-party overlays, are extremely OP and vastly go beyond, I believe, what any WoW add-on can do, at least currently. But they are. But you can't get caught in that game, again, unless you stream it. They have no way to know. I believe WoW can know. Is that correct? Like, if you are parsing WoW data, third party, porting it to something else, like is that even possible to do without Blizzard knowing?
It is possible, yeah, for sure.
It's a bit nebulous on the details of, like, there used to be a thing, I don't know if it's still a thing, called Warden. It's like their quote-unquote anti-cheat.
Yeah.
It's not like kernel level though, right? Like Vanguard or... Yeah, so it is... You could beat it.
The problem comes from, okay, we detected an overlay, but this can be GeForce Experience overlay. This can be your Discord overlay. Who is going to decide which overlay is bad and which overlay is good?
Okay.
And also during Race to World First or whatever, you can just have your camera pointed at the screen, right? And then you can have some AI analyze your personal buffs, and then you still have your buff tracking or whatever. There's always going to be workarounds for that.
Okay. So first of all, if that ends up being the meta, I'm 100% quitting. Just throwing that out there.
Yep.
I'm fucking out. Yeah, but I want to say, how much is even able to be done with? I'm sure they're gonna probably simplify rating a little bit if this stuff is gone. At least they're going to try to initially, or at least that's a way they can go. Okay, if you can do some third-party cheater shit, what would even exist in the game where you would even want to take that risk? Like, what would be so good that you would feel like you would have to do this and potentially get banned forever? I'm not like I
have the perfect example for this.
Okay, go for it.
It's Smolderon Orbs. So Smolderon Orbs, I think that is the kind of mechanic that they want to have in the game, and they do not want to be solved by WeakAuras or macro presses or whatever. So you have 3 people, and then that's the challenge for the raid. Okay, one guy needs to go first, one guy needs to go second, one guy needs to go third. Figure it out, limited amount of time.
Okay.
And on Smolderon, obviously, what did you have? You have a macro, and you press it. Someone gets 1, someone gets 2, someone gets 3. And if you then have this, let's say we have exactly Smolderon orbs in midnight first raid in some random boss, then currently we need to solve it the way Blizzard wants us to solve it, with like pings, with like let's say, like, say macros, you know, I'm going first, or you say like, oh yeah, if Emily gets it, he's first, but you need to figure it out. But then if you bring in overlays and analyzing screens, then once again, you can have this automatically solved. So that is one problem.
Okay, I can tell you this with 100% certainty, at least for our guild. If a really smart person in our guild comes to me and says, hey, we're on this boss Smolderon, we have these Smolderon orbs, which, by the way, we were YOLOing Smolderon orbs, I think, until someone, maybe Relo, made a, like, threat thing that, like, made it so it would, like, basically it did a 1, 2, 3 on threat or something when those went out, and you could, like, determine it through that. But if someone came to me and was like, okay, instead of us YOLOing Smolderon orbs, we can break the TOS and cheat and have this mechanic specifically be more repeatable on... I mean, let's say it's an even harder Smolderon. Let's say it's on a 300 pull boss, so it actually would be very strong, right? There's no fucking way. Like, there's literally no way we would do that. You are risking your entire relationship with Blizzard. It's gonna get out, by the way. You're gonna just fucking, you're gonna keep that forever. What happens when one of your players quits or gets recruited to another guild or doesn't care anymore, or it's 5 years? You're risking your entire, like, relationship with Blizzard, which, by the way, really fucking matters, like, whether, you know, they fuck with you or not, and your entire competitive integrity is just gone. Like, that is not worth it for Smolderon.
I mean, I fully agree with everything you said. Like, I would also never want this to happen, but I don't want it to be possible, and that is really hard to do for Blizzard, I think, to, like, detect this, see, like, exactly like you said, like, it's, how do you know what is an overlay that is doing something to the game? How is it just, like, showing you some microphone mute stages in Discord, you know?
I'm not sure if they have to worry about that, though, because the whole cheating scene is just a huge cat and mouse game, and I don't think that any of the top guilds would actively break TOS
exactly.
just to win.
That's what I think.
And that's why I think they don't have to worry about this, to be honest.
Yeah,
like,
I think it's more likely that, like, some random, you know, World 30th guild or whatever decides to do it than a Race World First guild. Although,
and then they get banned, and that's that. So
I will say,
that's fine.
If Hopeful isn't at the venue or streaming next event for the race, you know, I'm just saying we should have some suspicion about what's going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like, we've learned even some of that stuff recently, like, to dunk on Hopeful more. Something I've said recently is, like, why don't we just account share during the race? Like, there was never any account sharing bans. The only account sharing bans were back in, like, Nighthold, but those were all tied to piloting buyers for money, because, like, that's what all the guilds were doing. And that was the only account sharing ban. Like, even in that expansion, there was, like, a kill where there was someone in Method that had, like, 3 characters in on Maiden of Vigilance or whatever. So, like, they've never actually banned a top guild for account sharing. So it's like, hey, we just have the cameras look the other way, lip logs on this guy's account. Just saying kind of jokingly, like, would we even get banned? And then now we actually know, because Hopeful just is dumb enough to do that. So we found out that, like, yeah, they actually will still ban you for account sharing, even in the year of our Lord 2025. So they're like vigilant with that shit. I just don't. It'd be crazy if that happened at this level, honestly.
I'm not sure if it even is in the. I'm not sure if it even is in the TOS. What happens if you are in the same room or at the same venue? Like, what prevents someone to just switch seats and one plays the other person's account? Is that against TOS?
Yeah, unless you're married.
Yes.
I don't know. Do you want to find out?
All I'm saying though is
sure.
that we could get a registered, like, officiant of a church in at the next Race World First event and just tender some marriages as needed for people to pilot different accounts.
Yeah,
I had some effort.
I thought it was family based, so I was considering adopting all of the players. But then apparently it is actually purely marriage. Like, you can't have your son, like, play your account. It has to be your significant other. So yeah, you're right with the officiant. That's the only way. All right, I think we're
for the future generation. If you bring your children to the race, could they switch accounts?
Maybe we got to create a dynasty.
Put your account in your well.
Yeah.
Okay, finishing this up though, like, we kind of even did the, like, crazy overlay thing with, dear God, I hope all of us hope that never happens. At least at, like, if some random, like world 300th guild, like, finds some cheat and it goes on Wowhead for one day and they get banned and then no one can use it or whatever, like that, I don't care about that if that happens. Like, I'm talking about high level, it becomes normal, someone does it to get a win, or, like, guilds feel like do we use this add-on thing, and, like, because other guilds have done it, like, that kind of thing. I hope that never happens. But is there anything that is like kind of still any kind of final thoughts you guys feel like you want to get out if we can use the platform at all to like get any kind of feedback to Blizzard? Because this is also very real for you guys. Like, this is not something that is really maybe anyone's fault necessarily, but like some of you guys are losing potentially income. You are losing your job. You are, or is it affected majorly, right? So, I mean, obviously, I think that's been kind of looked past because you guys have made some great stuff for this game over a long period of time, and hopefully you were in some ways compensated for that because it helped a lot of people. But like, what do you guys have to say really? If you had any final thoughts?
Do you want to go around the room?
Yeah, sure. Stan, you can go first.
Okay. My plea to Blizzard is please communicate better. Reach out to us. We are always there to talk. It's not hard to reach us. Please don't roll this out in midnight as it currently stands. Reconsider what you want to disable. Finish your solutions first before you disable add-on access to the things you want to replace, basically. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Preach. Relo.
I mean, kind of the same. I definitely would like Blizzard to give us at least information about our own player state, not like every other person, even if that means we can do some computational stuff for your own rotation. But I think giving that one back would give them enough time to figure out better solutions in the next expansion, while still mostly killing the raid assignment stuff.
All right, cool. Nagi?
Amen.
Yeah, my biggest plea to Blizzard is you have this awesome add-on and WeakAuras and developer community. Lots of people have made awesome stuff over the years, and I feel like your UI team is in need of a few more people. So you have this awesome Discord, the WoW UI Dev Discord. I'm sure if you ask a couple very talented people there, they are willing to join your team. And I feel like you guys need more people that can make some awesome stuff for you.
Or even if
And
not
also-
join your team, just consulting has to be infinitely valuable.
I think consulting is like, if you just ask us, what is it about the current UI that is lacking and what do add-ons bring you? Like, we can give you so many detailed things that would completely be too much for this call here, but we can give you all of that info if you just ask. We're always there. That's it.
For free.
Even that.
Yeah, because I think something that shouldn't be understated is these aren't people who like started doing this because you guys wanted a job. You started making mods for this game because you fucking love the game and you wanted to make it better, right? So like, if you're looking at it from Blizzard's point of view, you know, it's the same thing. Like, this stuff's going in the game. You guys want the entire, you know, reason for this was you wanted the game to be better. So you want the base game to be better. Your motivations and theirs are the same. So I feel like just utilizing you guys as much as it's also what I told Ian when we were there after, you know, we had that conversation.
That's not true, man. He was like, no, fuck him. Do it without him.
yeah, dude, that'd be crazy. I mean, we were just like, the smartest thing you can do, you're trying to add something into your game. So there's been people who've been working on it for 15 years that have gone through every bit of the problem-solving process you could possibly go through, and they're just right there. And they'll help, and you should hire them for sure, but they'd probably help for free or consult, certainly, because they care about the game. So, like, if you're not utilizing them, you're just making your job harder.
Fun fact from back in the day, during TBC and RAF, they actually did hire or consult with add-on developers, and some of the base systems of the Blizzard UI are written by third-party people from the community, like the current combat log, the threat meter. Those were all written by community members back then.
Oh, I did not know that. That is a W info dump. All right, Nagi, your last thoughts.
I just talked.
Oh shit. I thought. Okay, my bad. All right.
I think we're only missing Rivers.
Yeah, it's just
my brain's fried, bro.
I guess the only thing I want to reiterate is just like,
Amen.
just talk to us, man. Like a whole lot of this would have gone so much smoother if we just knew like more than half an hour in advance before what was gonna go down. Like that's all I want.
All right, yeah. Dratnos?
Yeah. Basically, like right now, they've bitten off a lot of work. I think that it's all like anytime we're speculating of like, oh, they have this many people in this many months or whatever, like all of that math from the outside, I think is very difficult for us to actually have a good idea of like what they're capable of. But internally, I hope that they are aware of the size of the challenge of replacing details, plater, WeakAuras, bigwigs.
Everything.
all of that stuff. And if any of that stuff isn't going to be ready for midnight launch, I think back off on that particular one until... And it's not just like ready, but like ready and pretty good as well. It obviously doesn't have to be perfect right out of the gate, but like if there's going to be stuff that is, you know, a huge downgrade in functionality, I think people will understand if the add-on change gets delayed a little bit until it's ready and until the replacement is actually has all the functionality they want. I think it's a good cause that they're going for here. Like, I think that they are trying to do some good stuff. I also hope that the accessibility concerns don't fall by the wayside too. I hope that they look at the concerns of people like those in Undaunted and are like, okay, how can we make our base UI still have this community play our game? Because I think it would be a tremendous loss if that went away.
Yeah, that shouldn't be understated. The fact that, like, we're talking about being able to play this game as optimally as we'd like to, or to still enjoy the game because we've made our UIs look the way we want them to look, while understanding some of the combat information will go away, that's fine, but there's still a lot more than that. But there are people who may not be able to play this game anymore because of what is being removed. And I just really hope that Blizzard understands the scope of that. And that should honestly be like priority number one, right? Like having the game be more like better for people cannot be at the same level of these people can no longer play their favorite game, right? So that needs to be heavily looked at. I have no final thoughts. I talk on stream all the time. So all right, thanks for the call. But I think that was actually pretty productive and at least makes me a little bit more knowledgeable on what's actually going and what's not, and what's still here and what they can still do. But number one piece of feedback was to communicate. Like, tell us. God, it's actually crazy. In WoW's history, what has there ever been?
No, this is the first time where our feedback has been that we need more communication about this.
I just wonder how many other things have blown up this big that basically like what could have been solved with a blue post. Not like, at least as far as like the community reaction. Like the blue post saying to bear with us here would have gone crazy.
I mean, I think that they kind of didn't understand exactly what they were doing with this as well, because in that interview less than a week ago, there was a question of, is WeakAuras being canned entirely? And Ian's answer was, no, absolutely not. I just want to super clarify here. A lot of the shorthand has been like, oh, Blizzard's killing WeakAuras. That is not what we're doing, right? So then
that's the part that I don't understand. Like,
and then the cumulative effect of their changes is that the WeakAuras devs decide to stop doing WeakAuras, right? And it's like, you know, based off of the information that we've gained.
Yeah, if you're going to give him any credit for that, like, is there, if you guys wanted to put in the work, is there some extremely stripped down version of WeakAuras that can do nowhere close to what it is currently doing? Would that be possible? It even seems like from your own blog post that might be possible.
Yeah,
but it's
like definitely yes. Right?
It's just not worth the effort to do something for what they are even giving you the ability to do, right? So like he's saying like, well, we didn't really mean to kill WeakAuras, they just stopped wanting to work on it or something, which is still not entirely the truth, but I'm sure that would probably be his rebuttal to that. But you are right, it does. Dranos and I spoke to them during that conversation that was streamed, and then we also like talked to them a decent bit after that and at lunch and stuff, and none of it gave me the impression it was all this is happening over a long time. Like, the stuff that Ian said made it sound like it was happening longer, which, you know, that doesn't seem to be the case. So it's either something changed, they didn't talk about it, or this is farther than they thought it was going as well. Because the whole add-on environment and what APIs and, like, what calls from what and flags and all that stuff's like... I mean, I realize right now I'm just saying words, by the way, just literally buzzwords. I'm sure you guys are tilted by that. But, like, how exactly all this stuff affects that? Do you think Blizzard knew with like accuracy exactly what was being nuked with these changes? Like, do you believe that, like, exactly what was going to be going away?
That's the real question mark for me. I'm pretty sure the UI devs knew, but I'm not sure about anyone else. But it's also something that you mentioned that I wanted to clarify as well. I've seen a lot of responses to my or our tweets that were like, okay, so your guys are just too lazy to build a version for midnight, fuck you, quality of life should be possible, why don't you just do it? You hate your fans, in that line.
Okay, before you respond, can
okay.
I just point out that literally nothing you say right now is going to change those people's minds or make them happy? Like, they've already made their mind up.
Yeah, I just wanted to address it, that it's not really because we don't want to, it's because we can't. And there are reasons for it why we can't. And if you decide that you want a WeakAuras version that does what remains of the UI that you can, or the APIs that you can use, then feel free do that, but there are already add-ons that cover that, because that would be stuff like your farming reminder, your event tracker that tells you which event is up in the world, or your daily chores tracker. There are already add-ons that do that. You don't need WeakAuras for that. And I think Rivers also made like analysis of what would remain, so you maybe can talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I mean, there's a lot of like those non-combat stuff. Like I have one installed right now that just tells me like which dells are the fastest to complete, and stuff like that. And that's part of why we announced it so quickly, was to give people time to move that out of WeakAuras, because like, yeah, like we could keep like basically a little add-on platform for that, but since like the main purpose of it, since we have the main purpose of the add-on, all the combat stuff is gone, like that's impossible. Like it was either just like become a little become a platform for all the little utility add-ons, or just let those go into CurseForge, like they can live without us. Yeah.
All right, cool. I think that's it. I don't want this to be too long, so people will watch the YouTube video and be like, oh my god, this is 3 hours. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff we could do, but I feel like we were very concise and talked about all the important issues, so it'll be at least easier to understand. So all right, thank you guys. That was really, really insightful, and I hope the next few weeks are less stressful for you all, as I'm sure you've had a hell of a few days.
Yep, it's been interesting.
Awesome. Thanks for the invite.
Yep. All right. Thanks for the talk, guys. See ya.
See you in
Bye.
the next blue post.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually. All